Hello, dear friends. Before anything else, the Pleiadians want to say something that changes everything about how what follows is received. Preparation is not fear. These are two entirely different things. And the difference between them is not subtle. It is fundamental. It determines the quality of the experience of every soul that moves through the threshold that is approaching. It determines whether what comes next is received as liberation or as disruption, as the arrival of something long awaited, or as the overwhelm of something that found a consciousness that was not ready for it. Fear says, something terrible is coming, and I must protect myself from it. It contracts. It hoards. It builds walls and fills rooms with supplies and measures distances between itself and the thing it is afraid of. Preparation says something entirely different. Preparation says, something significant is approaching, and I want to be genuinely available to receive it. It opens. It creates space. It clears what is no longer needed in order to make room for what is genuinely coming. It builds not walls but capacity. Not protection from the threshold, but genuine readiness to move through it. Everything the Pleiadians want to share today comes from that second place. From a deep understanding of what the 3 days of darkness actually is, what it genuinely requires of the souls who will move through it, and what becomes available on the other side to those who have prepared in ways that actually matter. Because the 3 days of darkness is not a catastrophe. It is not a punishment. It is not a judgment descended from some cosmic authority upon a civilization that has failed some standard of worthiness. It is a threshold, a moment of collective reset of such depth and such magnitude that what comes after it will not resemble what came before in the ways that matter most. Not in the structure of external systems, though those will also change, but in the fundamental quality of human consciousness. In the baseline experience of what it means to be alive and aware on this planet. And the quality of what a soul experiences on the other side of that threshold is determined, in significant part, by the quality of the preparation that precedes it. The Pleiadians are transmitting these 5 preparations now, not because the threshold is so imminent that there is no time for anything but frantic last-minute effort, but because the preparation that genuinely matters cannot be accomplished in days or weeks. It is the work of months, of consistent daily choices in a direction that, over time, builds something in the inner life that no single dramatic gesture can create. There is time, but the time is not unlimited, and the willingness to use it wisely, to begin now, with whatever small and genuine step is available, is itself one of the most important expressions of genuine readiness. Receive this not with urgency that collapses into panic, but with the clear-eyed, grounded, purposeful attention of someone who has been given genuinely useful information at genuinely the right moment. The first thing the Pleiadians say you must do is clear what you are still carrying. Every human being, over the course of a lifetime, accumulates something that might be described as energetic weight, not physical weight, not the burden of external responsibilities or the ordinary challenges of navigating a complex life, but the weight of what has been experienced but not fully integrated. The residue of feelings that were felt but then suppressed because the moment did not allow space for their complete expression. The grief that was acknowledged and then set aside because life made continuing demands that did not pause for genuine mourning. The resentment that was understandable in its origin, but that, held for too long, calcified into a fixed story about how the world works and what can be expected from other people. This accumulated weight is not invisible. It does not live somewhere separate from the ordinary experience of being alive. It is present in the body, in the characteristic tension patterns that become background noise after years of inhabiting them, in the thoughts that return with the persistence that conscious intention cannot entirely override, in the habitual emotional responses that arise before conscious choice has a chance to intervene, in the ways that the present moment is always, subtly, being experienced through the filter of everything that happened before it. And when the 3 days of darkness arrives, when the collective reset moves through the energy field of this planet with the depth and the thoroughness that the Pleiadians describe, what is still being carried will be encountered fully, without the ordinary buffers of distraction and busyness and the management strategies that allow most people to avoid the full weight of what they carry during ordinary life. Not as punishment, not as a cosmic intervention designed to force an unpleasant reckoning, but as the natural consequence of a process that reveals what is real and dissolves what is not. A process that, for those carrying heavy, unprocessed weight, will be more turbulent than for those who have done the work of clearing. Begin this clearing now, not through any particular method or formal process that requires resources or expertise you may not have. The Pleiadians are not prescribing a specific therapeutic approach or a particular tradition of inner work. They are pointing towards something simpler, the practice of honest acknowledgement. Each morning or each evening, sit in stillness for a few minutes. Let the busyness and the noise of the ordinary day settle, and ask yourself, as honestly as you are capable of in that moment, one question. What am I still carrying that it is time to release? Not to solve it, not to analyze it or understand it or trace it to its origin, not to perform any particular healing ritual around it, simply to acknowledge it, to say inwardly and with genuine honesty, this is here. I have been carrying this. It has been with me for a long time, and I am willing to begin letting it go. That willingness, genuine, not performed, not the saying of words that do not carry felt meaning, begins the process. And the process, begun with genuine intention, is supported by the rising frequencies of the current period in ways that make it more accessible now than it has been for a very long time. The weight does not have to leave all at once. The Pleiadians are not describing a dramatic moment of complete release that transforms everything in a single experience. They are describing a direction, a consistent orientation toward the releasing of what is held. Day by day, moment by moment, with whatever honesty is available in each particular moment. Over time, that consistency creates real change, real lightening, real opening of the inner space for what the 3 days of darkness is designed to bring. The second thing is to develop a genuine relationship with silence. This is not optional. The Pleiadians say this with an emphasis that is unusual even in their transmissions. It is not a recommendation. It is not a suggestion that would be nice to follow if circumstances allow. It is a necessity. And the reason it is a necessity is not arbitrary. Silence is the primary channel through which the transmissions of this period are received. Not sound, not words, not the information-dense environment of stimulation that constitutes ordinary modern life, but the quality of inner stillness, the quieting of the compulsive movement of the thinking mind that makes it possible to receive what operates at frequencies that ordinary thought cannot process. The 3 days of darkness, in the Pleiadian understanding, is not primarily a sensory experience. It is not primarily something that happens to the eyes or the ears. It is something that happens at the level of consciousness, and the capacity to receive what it carries, to be genuinely present with the depth of what that threshold makes available, depends entirely on the quality of stillness that has been developed in the consciousness that moves through it, not the absence of external noise, though that is part of it. The deeper silence, the silence of a mind that has learned, through sustained practice, to release its compulsive forward movement, that is not perpetually reviewing the past or rehearsing the future, that is not always already somewhere other than where it actually is, that is simply here, awake, present, receptive. This quality of silence does not appear through willpower. It does not arrive because someone decides to have it. It is developed through practice, through the daily, consistent, often imperfect and often frustrating effort of sitting quietly and allowing the thinking mind to slow, not by force, not by suppression, but through the patient, gentle, persistent practice of returning again and again, without judgment, without the self-criticism that compounds the ordinary challenge with additional difficulty, to the present moment every time the mind moves away. 5 minutes a day, every day, without exception, is where this practice begins. Not the impressive meditation session that happens occasionally and then lapses, but the unglamorous, consistent, daily practice that builds something real over time. Over weeks and months of this kind of practice, what was once an effortful discipline becomes a natural quality. A stillness that is not confined to the formal practice session, but that begins to infuse the ordinary moments of an ordinary day. That is accessible in the middle of difficulty as well as in the peaceful morning minutes. This stillness is what will allow you to navigate the 3 days of darkness with clarity rather than confusion, with genuine presence rather than the reactive overwhelm that a consciousness without this preparation might experience, with the capacity to receive what it carries rather than being swept away by the intensity of what it is. The third thing is to bring your life into greater genuine alignment with what you actually value. This is perhaps the most demanding of the 5 preparations, and the Pleiadians speak about it with the greatest care, because it requires a kind of honest self-examination that most people find genuinely uncomfortable, and because the culture of most of the modern world does not reward it, does not even particularly support it. In fact, actively discourages the kind of honest interiority that this preparation requires. Look at your life. Not the life you aspire to or the version you describe when someone asks how you are doing. Not the ideal self you identify with when you read about spiritual development or listen to transmissions about what human consciousness is capable of, but the actual, specific, concrete life that is lived each day. The way time is allocated when no one is watching and no particular effort is being made to live up to any standard. The choices that are made repeatedly, automatically, in the small moments that accumulate into who you actually are rather than who you intend to be. And ask yourself, with as much honesty as you can genuinely access, does this life reflect what I actually value? Not the values I aspire to, not the person I am trying to become, but the values I actually hold in the deepest and most genuine part of who I am. Does the way I actually live reflect those values? Or is there a gap, a distance between what I genuinely care about and what my actual daily choices demonstrate that I care about? For most people, there is a gap between the values they hold and the life they actually live, between who they believe themselves to be and who they demonstrably are in the observable details of their daily choices, between the person they present to the world and the person they encounter in their most private and most honest moments. This gap is not a moral failure. The Pleiadians are not transmitting judgment. They are transmitting a practical understanding of something that directly affects the quality of the inner environment and therefore the quality of what the 3 days of darkness makes available. The gap produces friction, a low-level but persistent dissonance between the soul's genuine direction and the life's actual movement, between what is known and what is lived. And this friction, sustained over time, suppresses the frequency of the inner system, makes the reception of higher transmissions more difficult, creates a kind of static in the channel that affects the clarity of what can be received. The preparation the Pleiadians suggest is not the dramatic overhaul of an entire life. They are not asking for a sudden and complete transformation that most people could not realistically accomplish, and that, attempted too forcefully, tends to create more disruption than genuine growth. They are asking for something more modest and more sustainable, and in its very modesty, more genuinely powerful. Identify one specific area where the gap between your values and your actual daily life is most significant. One place where the distance between what you care about and how you are actually living is most pronounced. And take one small, concrete, genuinely sustainable step toward closing that gap. One step. Maintain consistently. And then, when that step has become part of the fabric of how you actually live, another step. Small, real, genuine. Over time, this consistent direction creates real alignment. And as the alignment deepens, the inner environment becomes more coherent, more resonant, more capable of receiving and holding and transmitting what the 3 days of darkness makes available. The fourth thing is to strengthen your connections with others who are genuinely awake. The 3 days of darkness, in the Pleiadian understanding, is significantly easier to navigate, and its gifts are significantly more fully received in the company of souls who understand something of what is happening, who can hold the space of presence and clarity in a period when many around them may be confused or frightened or disoriented by the magnitude of what they are experiencing. This is not about belonging to any particular group or community. It is not about finding the right teacher or the right tradition or the right gathering of like-minded people. It is about something more fundamental and more personally specific than any of those things. It is about the quality of the connections that are actually present in your life right now, and about deepening those connections wherever genuine resonance already exists. If there are people in your life who carry something of what you carry, who understand, even partially, the dimension of experience you are navigating, who can meet you in the deeper territory of genuine inner inquiry without dismissing it or reducing it to something more comfortable, deepen those connections now. Be more honest with them than you have been. Be more genuinely present with them. Let what is real between you become more real. And if those connections are not yet present in your life in the way you genuinely need them, know that the universe is actively creating the conditions for them to arrive. The meaningful encounters that many are reporting, the people appearing at precisely the right moment, the communities of genuine resonance forming across geographic and cultural distance. This is the field of awakening doing what it does as the threshold approaches, bringing together the souls who need to find each other before what comes next. Stay open. Stay genuine in your own expression of who you actually are, so that those who carry genuine resonance can recognize you when they appear. Trust the process that is already, even if you cannot yet see it clearly, bringing toward you exactly what you genuinely need. The fifth thing, and the Pleiadians say this is the most important of the 5, the one that, if it is genuinely developed, holds and supports everything else, is to practice radical trust. Not trust as a belief system, not trust as a story told to oneself in order to avoid the genuine discomfort of uncertainty, not the performance of positivity that keeps difficult realities at bay by simply refusing to acknowledge them, but trust as a lived practice, a daily, moment-by-moment, often effortful choice to hold the experience of life with all its uncertainty, all its difficulty, all its genuine pain, all its unresolved questions and apparently unsatisfying answers, from a place of genuine, grounded, experientially rooted confidence that what is happening is purposeful, that the process being moved through has intelligence, that the difficulty is not evidence that something has gone wrong, but that something is going exactly as it needs to, that the life being lived, with all its imperfection and all its still unresolved questions, is exactly the life that is capable of taking the soul that inhabits it to where it is genuinely meant to go. This trust is not naive. The Pleiadians are not asking for the suspension of discernment or the refusal to see things clearly. They are pointing towards something that is the product of genuine inner work, of having sat with what is actually true long enough to begin to sense the larger pattern within which the present difficulties are taking place, of having developed, through sustained experience and sustained honesty, A relationship with the intelligence of the process that makes trust not a leap of faith, but a reasonable response to what has actually been experienced. And it is, in the Pleiadian understanding, the single most powerful preparation available for the 3 days of darkness. Because what that threshold asks of every soul that moves through it is the capacity to be fully present with what is happening, without the protection of denial, without the escape of distraction, without the management of a mind that is trying to control what cannot be controlled, and to trust, in the direct and felt sense of actually trusting rather than merely believing that trust would be appropriate, that what is happening is good, even when it does not look like what good looks like from the inside of it, even when it is uncomfortable and disorienting and nothing like what was expected, even in the darkest moment of a darkness that is 3 days long. The Pleiadians want to close with something they want you to carry forward from this transmission. You are not unprepared. Whatever doubts may arise about the adequacy of your development, whatever comparisons may suggest that others are more ready, whatever the ordinary self-critical voice may say about how much further along you should be by now, in the fundamental sense that matters most, you are not unprepared. You have been preparing for longer than this single conversation, for longer than your engagement with these teachings, for longer, in ways that your ordinary mind cannot currently access, than this single lifetime. These 5 preparations are not starting points for souls who have not yet begun. They are the refinements of a preparation that has, for those who are genuinely awake, been underway for a very long time. Do them. Do them imperfectly. Do them consistently. And trust that imperfect consistency, sustained in a genuine direction, is exactly what the threshold requires. Take what resonates. Leave what does not. And trust yourself, completely and without apology, to know the difference. This content is offered for spiritual reflection, symbolic interpretation, and personal insight only. It is not presented as scientific fact, medical advice, or a prediction of real-world events. The narration in this video is generated using artificial intelligence voice technology. Please use your own discernment and personal judgment when engaging with this material.